protests are spreading across Ukraine after President Zelensky's surprise decision to replace the popular defence minister Mikhailo Fedorov. Fedorov's been credited with energising the defence ministry and heading a drive against corruption. Yuriy Sak is a former advisor to the defence ministry, and he joins us from Kyiv. Yuriy, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. Thousands of young Ukrainians have taken to the streets to protest this. They are protesting their own president during a war. Do they have a point? Is there a question here as to why the architect of Ukraine's drone victory, drone strategy, why removing that person makes Ukraine safer and enhances their position in this war?
Well, this is not the first time that the Ukrainian people have taken to the streets to protest against a decision that they believe somehow is not in sync with the interests of the country. We've had the protests last year, and they were connected to the move to somehow restrict the anti-corruption bodies. Now we have these protests, and in my view, the main reason why this is happening is the following. For the Ukrainian people, and in particular for the younger generations, and you must understand that almost everyone who is on those protests are children, brothers, sisters of Ukrainian defenders who are, as we speak, protecting Ukraine on the front lines against the vicious enemy. So these are very highly motivated people, and of course, for the Ukrainian people, there always have been two main enemies. One is corruption, the other one is Russia. For the Ukrainian people, Mr. Fedorov is the embodiment of a success story on both fronts. Mr. Fedorov was successful in his strategies to curb corruption within the defense industry, within the Ministry of Defense as a structure. And he's, of course, also a successful case study in terms of achieving at least parity on the front lines. Because as you know, for the past couple of months, because of the success with the drone warfare, Russians have not been able to gain any land. Moreover, Russians are now almost without oil. There are huge lines of Russian cars at petrol stations unable to fill up their cars. And for the first time in 20 years, Russia, as an energy superpower, has to import petrol, refined petrol, from other countries. So, of course, for Ukrainian people, all of these success stories are connected with Mr. Fedorov, and that's why they are protesting.
Yeah, which is fascinating because he's become such a key figure in their mind about what this war effort looks like. What does it say about President Zelensky, his grip of government, and his strategic approach here? This is, I think, the third government reshuffle that Zelensky has kind of brought about in just 1 year. It's cost Ukraine its prime minister and now its defence minister. This isn't necessarily... It won't be perceived as strategic refining. It looks like wartime instability, does it not?
President Zelensky, under our constitution, is the supreme commander-in-chief, and in that position he's responsible for ensuring the overall stability of the system, of the government, of the way the different parts of the government interact with each other. And what President Zelensky has done with this move is squarely and fairly within his constitutional powers. I must say that in my view, and in view of many other Ukrainians, President Zelensky is in a bit of a place which can be described between a rock and a hard place, because on the one hand, he wants the system to be stable. He wants the Ministry of Defense to have a working relationship with the General Staff, for example, with the army. And as he said it himself yesterday, as ex-Minister Fedorov said it, for quite some time there was a difference of opinions in terms of certain strategies between Mr. Fedorov and the Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Syrsky. That difference of opinions apparently has reached a point where Minister Fedorov was no longer capable of actually implementing his revolutionary ideas. And unfortunately, that put President Zelensky in a place where he had to make this difficult choice. And, well, that's the choice that he made.
Yeah, indeed. Yuriy, it's fascinating to hear from you, and thank you for your analysis this morning. Thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Not at all. That's Yuriy Sak, a former advisor to the Ukraine Defence Ministry.
Since the Defence Secretary's appointment in January, Kyiv's forces have taken the fight to Russia, isolating Moscow's forces in occupied Crimea and causing a fuel crisis within Russia. Well, let's speak with Oleksandr Merezhko, who is a Ukrainian MP and Foreign Affairs Committee Chair. Oleksandr, thanks very much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Why was this defence minister dismissed? And tell us a bit about this gentleman. Why was he so popular, and what has the reaction been?
Well, technically speaking, he was not dismissed. There was a resignation of the whole cabinet of ministers, in other words, Ukrainian government. And president, he can nominate two ministers. First of all, Minister of Defense and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. But instead of nominating Mr. Mikhailo Fedorov, president was considering to nominate other person, the ex-Minister of Internal Affairs, Klemenko. The thing is that Mikhailo Fedorov has been a very close supporter and member of President Zelensky's team since even before President Zelensky was elected. So, and he has been very effective in both his kind of positions, first of all, as a Minister of Digitalization and Minister of Defense, even though he has been in the position of the Minister of Defense only for 6 months. But he proved to be very effective because he offered new approach to how to wage the war, which is more advanced, more based upon cutting-edge technologies, and it had very effective and important results. Despite this, my guess is it's not only about personal conflict between a defense minister on the one hand, Mr. Fedorov, and on the other hand, Commander-in-Chief Syrsky. It's not only about a clash of personalities or something personal. It's more broad conflict, more broad clash, which is about different approaches and different philosophies how to wage the war. Additionally, it has sort of, I would say, economic underpinning or economic dimension, because Mr. Fedorov tried to put in order processes related to procurement. It has always been sort of problematic, to put it very mildly.
What, in terms of corruption?
Well, yes. So Mr. Fedorov tried to prevent corruption from happening. He tried to remove any possibilities of schemes around this very delicate field. And of course, when you're doing such things, you inevitably step on the toes of some people. You might touch upon their material interests, and you create enemies. As a result, so-called anonymous Telegram channel started smear campaign against Mr. Fedorov. And finally, but the story is unfolding. It's not finished yet. We have protests of people who are unhappy about this decision, because to them, Mr. Fedorov represents a new young generation of technocrats, patriotic technocrats who are effective, and people believe in him. So the story is unfolding, and the president hasn't taken the final decision.
Well, Oleksandr, always good to catch up with you. Thank you very much for your time. That's Oleksandr Merezhko, who is a Ukrainian MP, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.